You want some more cheesehead domination? We've got it for you this morning. I'm Charlie Sykes, and Sunday Insight starts right now. Good morning and welcome to Sunday Insight. In the week that was, a native son picked for the #2 spot on the presidential ticket. Mitt Romney picks Paul Ryan. And on Tuesday, Tommy's back. The former governor survives a four-way primary to win the nomination for U.S. Senate, setting up a contest with Democrat Tammy Baldwin. And yeah, you're going to be getting a lot of that Tammy stuff. Two moderate Democrats were swept out in their own primary in Milwaukee. Sheriff David Clark fired back at criticism for his decision to provide security for the Republican candidates in Waukesha last Sunday by saying that County Supervisor Johnny Weishon should pull his head out of his bleep. So no, Clark and Weishon probably won't be exchanging Christmas cards this year. Mourners gather to remember the victims of the Sikh temple shooting as condolences continue to roll in. And County Executive Chris Abele fires one of his most popular and successful department heads, Parks Director Sue Black, but won't say why. We start this morning with the biggest political news of the week. Mitt Romney picks Wisconsin Congressman Paul Ryan as his running mate.
I can tell you this, he's going to be the next vice president of the United States.
The pick marks another extraordinary moment in Wisconsin politics, which has repeatedly been described as being the ground zero of national politics. Ryan's pick guarantees that it will again this fall. The pick was controversial because of Ryan's outspoken fiscal conservatism and his proposals to cut the federal deficit and reform entitlement programs like Medicare. Some Democrats welcomed the pick because they thought they could use the Paul Ryan wants to shove Granny off the cliff issue against the GOP ticket. Joining me on our panel this morning, political strategist, former Milwaukee County Supervisor Linda Bruin, the Wisconsin Policy Research Institute's Christian Schneider, the Milwaukee Community Journal's Michael Holt, and Media Tracker's Brian Sickma. Now, Christian Schneider, you have written extensively about Paul Ryan. Let's start with this. What do we know about Paul Ryan that the rest of the country doesn't know but is about to find out?
Well, I mean, what we've seen in his congressional district, which is essentially kind of a swing congressional district, he talks to people like they're adults. He gives them the facts. He keeps in constant contact with them, and as a result, they've rewarded him with their votes. I mean, he rarely gets under 65% of the vote in his district, and so I think it's definitely going to help him here in Wisconsin. It may help him in some other states, but I think what mostly the pick does is it shines a light on the Romney campaign, which Romney can then use now to give people a second look.
Yeah, I mean, normally the vice president is chosen for a variety of reasons, including whether he can give geographical balance or he can deliver the electoral votes of a certain state. Obviously, Wisconsin is now going to be in play, but why do you think that Romney chose Ryan? Was it for Wisconsin or what else?
Well, he immediately gives the campaign credibility. I mean, there was a time when Mitt Romney was thought as a flip-flopper. You know, he flips and flops on certain issues. This puts all of that to end. This makes that look like ancient history because now he's got the future of the Republican Party, the future of conservatism right at his side.
Okay, some Democrats were saying they thought they were licking their chops. They think that this is a big mistake, that it is a downside. Is Paul Ryan a net plus nationally for Romney?
Well, I think no.
Yeah.
And I think because, for example, normally when you name a VP pick, the polls, you get a bounce in the polls on average of about 4 points. He got a 1-point bounce for picking Ryan. And I think that Romney's intent was to shore up his own base, and in that sense, it is a win for him. Will it win over independents? Will it send Democrats to the polls that might not have gone before? Absolutely. But he's trying to balance that out by sending his own people to the polls.
Okay.
I think the Obama-Biden ticket right now is short-selling the American people because they're betting on the fact that Paul Ryan is a negative for Mitt Romney because he wants to talk about serious ideas. As Christian just mentioned, he comes back to his district here in Wisconsin, talks about adult ideas. The nation is headed towards a fiscal cliff right now. Paul Ryan is the man with a plan who has thought through this. Mitt Romney wants to have that on board. I think the Obama-Biden ticket is severely out of ideas.
Net plus or negative?
I think it's negative because now they're going to focus on Ryan.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, he's overshadowing, the presidential hopeful right now. Everybody's talking about him, his plan, etc. The Democrats are going to have a field day. They're going to say he's too extreme. Mitt Romney already has lost the women's vote. Now, his only chance, I think, to get some of the women's vote maybe if Paul Ryan walks around shirtless for the next 3 or 4 months because he has this great physique.
That is possible.
Other than that, I don't see where it could be a positive.
Vice presidents don't win elections for presidential candidates unless they deliver a state that tips the balance. So I'm not sure it tips the balance in this situation, and I think that the bottom line is that it really shored up his own base. And
okay, I think a couple of things. Number one, and everybody else has already said this. Picking Paul Ryan is goes back on the offense. It makes the election about something big as opposed to something small. I think that you are completely wrong, Mr. Holt. On this.
He doesn't have a good physique?
No, he has he's extremely hot.
Glad you said that, not me.
But the Democrats who think that they can focus in on Paul Ryan, he's going to be extremely difficult to demonize. Now, the answer to my question that I asked Christian, what do we know about him that the rest of the country doesn't, is how really freaky good this guy is. They may think that he is a policy wonk. He's also an extremely good politician. And on the issue of Medicare, I thought what was really fascinating was the way in which Romney and Ryan have turned that issue around. When you explain to people that the Ryan plan does not affect anyone over the age of 55 at all, that they are completely held harmless. And in fact, they went on the offense by pointing out that it was the Democrats who robbed Medicare of $700 billion. So I think if the Democrats are thinking that they're going to play the, scare granny card, they're going to be disappointed. I think they're also going to be surprised to realize how much appeal Paul Ryan is going to have to a younger generation. On Friday, Charles Krauthammer wrote that the pick of Paul Ryan is going to have an effect on the face of conservatism for the next generation, and I think he's right. Next on Sunday Insight, it is Tommy versus Tammy in the U.S. Senate race. And as we go to break, President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden on Mitt Romney selecting Paul Ryan for his running mate.
He's the ideological leader of the Republicans in Congress, and he's an articulate spokesperson for Governor Romney's views. The problem is, those views are wrong. I fundamentally disagree with their vision for America.
I call to congratulate him. We both talked about it. These are stark choices. The differences couldn't be more clearly laid out through this election than you're going to hear. And the American people are going to make a choice.
It's Tammy versus Tommy. Four-term Governor Tommy Thompson was the comeback kid last week, winning a hard-fought four-way Republican primary for U.S. Senate. In winning, Thompson bucked the national trend that has seen young Tea Party-backed candidates knocking off veteran politicians. He now faces one of the most liberal members of Congress, Madison area's Congresswoman Tammy Baldwin. Your thoughts on Tommy Thompson's comeback? Does he still have it?
Oh, yeah, he still has it. Tommy, of the group of 4 Republicans who are running, Tommy was considered most moderate. There was one point where Tommy got almost 40% of the black vote as a Republican.
In the 90s.
Yeah. And a lot of people still remember him for that. Right now, I think the election is his to lose, but Tammy Baldwin hasn't spent any money yet, and she's going to become charged.
Your newspaper endorsed Tommy?
Yeah, as among the Republicans.
Okay, so you're not necessarily flipping over into the general election here.
We have to have discussions about it, but I would be surprised.
Okay, Brian, let's go back for a moment, because this does buck that trend. So how does Tommy Thompson's almost the classic, old line Republican who's been wiped out all over the country. How did he win this?
Well, I think it was a referendum on Tommy Thompson as governor, because the people of Wisconsin, you have the conservative vote was split several different ways, the quote-unquote conservative vote. Tommy Thompson actually moved to the right, if you will, during this campaign. So he's not the traditional, I've been in Congress, I've been in the Senate for several years, and I've been casting votes. He's coming out of retirement to do this. It wasn't a bucking of a national trend as much as it was, I think people just love Tommy Thompson here in Wisconsin. And there was really, if there was maybe one...
Okay, but it was also a divided 4-way race. If it had been a 2-way race, would it have turned out differently, do you think?
It possibly could have, and I think if it had been a runoff, I think it definitely would have been very difficult for Tommy to capture the nomination.
Rasmussen poll came out on Friday showing Tommy Thompson with an 11-point lead over Tammy Baldwin. Do you agree with Michael Holt that it's his race to lose?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I think Tammy, being as liberal as she is, I think this was the one candidate she did not want to have to run against, because he'll draw independents, moderate Democrats, etc.
Okay, Christian Stein.
Tommy's going to win, I think, fairly comfortably.
Going to win. You're going out on a limb. It's August.
Tommy's going to win comfortably.
Yeah.
He's, Tammy Baldwin is very likable. She's been in Congress 14 years, but she's never actually run a really competitive campaign. And you know, this is going to be a shock for her. She's already kind of taken shots for him, and the one thing she has going for her is her likability. And just like Tom Barrett in the recall elections, once you start throwing those negative ads out there, then you start to lose some of that.
But ads will come the other way.
Right.
There will be millions pouring in on her side as well. And Rasmussen had a big spread, but other polls had them neck and neck. So actually, it's a lot closer than people think.
Well, there's a Marquette University law poll that'll come out next Wednesday. We'll see where all that's at.
Yeah.
I think that Tammy Baldwin is a much more formidable candidate than other Republicans think. I mean, I think she's portrayed herself as a relatively moderate Democrat. I guess the question is going to be, you know, will the Republicans be able to characterize her, you know, using her voting record? I mean, she went into Congress at the same time as Paul Ryan. She's a target-rich environment, you know, in terms of her record, the votes she has cast. And, you know, the reality is that she is to the left of Barack Obama on a variety of issues.
But she's still going to ride his coattails. She's going to ride Barack Obama's. And then one thing in Tommy's favor is he's won statewide office 4 times.
Right.
You know, nobody else can say that. And I think that's going to help him a lot. But as Lynn was saying, there's going to be tons of money. She automatically gets the women's vote.
Does Tommy Thompson help Romney at the top of the ticket, or are they totally disconnected?
I think they help each other. Those coattails, those Obama coattails, might not be as big as we once thought with Paul Ryan on the ticket now.
No, I agree. I think Tommy Thompson helps the Romney team, and having Paul Ryan on the Romney team helps Tommy Thompson. It's going to be tough for Wisconsin Democrats to pull it off, I think.
Okay. Was anybody surprised that Tommy Thompson won that primary? Anybody willing to say they were surprised?
No, not with not with 3 more conservatives in the race, plus all those negative ads that also went after Hovde. So they went after Thompson, but they went after Hovde, so both the top runners got deflated. So I think in the end that helped them.
I was losing, you know, I cannot recall an election in which there were more conflicted, undecided voters until the last moment. And I think ultimately what happened was that voters went to the polls and they said, okay, we're going to go with the guy that we know, the guy that we like, the guy that we think is most electable. I think that if you had one characteristic to say, Wisconsin Republican voters are conservative, but they're pragmatic, and this was all about electability.
Right. They had the choice of a guy that they think could win the seat for 6 years for sure, or a younger guy who might be able to hold that seat for longer but doesn't have as good a chance to beat Baldwin.
Okay, coming up on Sunday Insight, Milwaukee County Executive Chris Abele abruptly fires Parks Director Sue Black. What was that all about? One of the most popular, honored, and successful local officials summarily fired, and nobody will say why. County Executive Chris Abele fired Parks Director Sue Black last week in a move that seemed to take pretty much everybody, including Black, by surprise. Black said that Abele offered her no reason for the abrupt firing. She reportedly responded, "Are you serious? I deserve better than this after 10 years, but her office was locked and her cell phone shut off." Abele refuses to say why he fired her.
What I owe you is results and outcomes and responsible use of your money. I don't owe you gossip.
Anytime you're around water, I think people...
Until last Thursday, Abele had spoken very highly of Black, giving her $21,000 in raises last year and fighting to keep her from taking a much higher paying job in Chicago. Linda Bruin, you're a former county supervisor. You know Sue Black, you know Chris Abele. What is going on? Why did this happen?
Well, first of all, I'm a friend of Sue's as well, and we worked together for many years because I was chair Parks Committee, so I've known her for quite some time. I think it is absolutely clear that Sue Black has no idea why she was fired. So whatever reason Chris Abele has for it, it clearly was planned. This was not a last-minute thing because the moving van showed up and moved her furniture. She was locked out. It was very well orchestrated, so it wasn't some last-minute fight or some big difference of vision or whatever. Whatever it is, Chris Abele is keeping it to himself.
But this is what I don't understand. A lot of people don't understand. So September of 2011, he gives her a big raise to keep her from going to Chicago. He doesn't want her to go from Chicago. Says that she's exactly the kind of manager he wants. He reappoints her in April of this year after he's reelected to a 4-year term. It's August, and now she's basically escorted out of the building. What happened?
There's not even scuttlebutt at the courthouse. Everyone is absolutely astonished by this.
Yeah.
The only thing that's being said is that that they have different visions, and I hope, you know, the naive part of me hopes that really is it. That somehow there's some different vision that Chris wants to articulate.
A different vision from April until August.
Yeah. That he's got going a whole new course.
Do you usually lock someone out of an office? I guess the thing that struck me about this was that. Look, there are always going to be changes made. This seemed to have been done in the most brutal manner possible, having armed guards, block her access to her office, all of that stuff.
Well, and there's no severance pay. She doesn't know if she can take vacation
What does
time.
he mean?
Boom.
What does he mean when he says, I don't owe you gossip? Why does he use the word gossip?
I have no idea. And I think what happens is if you don't give a legitimate reason, then people, their only choice they have is to gossip. So, you know, what I'm worried about most of all, though, is that if he has a reason that he clearly doesn't want to tell people what it is, or maybe he wants to tell it in a month from now when he rolls out his budget, whatever it is that's legitimate in his mind, if you're pushed then to come up with a reason, I don't want them to make up a second reason that's just made up to respond to the press.
Okay, Brian said, but the county executive says he does not owe the taxpayers an explanation, does he?
I think he does owe the taxpayers an explanation. They hired him to do the job. They put him in that position. You don't fire someone like in a thuggish fashion like this, locking them out of their office and then say, oh, no explanations forthcoming. I don't know if Chris Abele can't be around successful people. Like Sue Black has been very successful for Milwaukee County taxpayers. I don't know what his reasoning here is by stonewalling, by not giving a reason. He's really undermining his own credibility to govern, because people want to know, why are you firing someone who is successful, who worked with both sides of the aisle to actually make Milwaukee County park system what it is today, a world-class park system?
Okay. Michael,
you know, I kind of bet that she's now regretting her decision not to run for county executive a couple of years ago. And I heard some of the Abele people say, we guarantee you all this, etc. But, you know, she's been this shining star. And I think she's energized the board now, who are going to start attacking him. And we're going to see a whole lot of infighting over the next couple of years. And I don't know if Chris Abele's going to come out on top.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you remember when Scott Walker took over and appointed her, you know, he was supposedly slashing budgets and the parks were going to hell and stuff. Right. But, you know, she was out there winning awards, so she's exactly what you would want a public servant to be. And then, you know, now she's gone.
She brought more money in grants and private donations to the park system than any director in the county history. So it's not just how do you treat someone appropriately or whether you have to give a reason. The taxpayer piece of this is, wow, your vision has to be you have to come up with some amazing new vision to justify that when she's bringing in millions and she's got a good vision.
What is remarkable about her is the fact that she was able to have those successes at a time of budget cuts. She was successful. So I guess the question people are asking, the question I'm asking, is was she too successful? Is that part of it? Did she become too big for the job? Was she, did her success and the plaudits and the medals, did that somehow, would that bother Abele? You know, was he jealous? What?
Well, Scott Walker, when he hired her and she came in, and she said to him, if it's okay with you for me to go out and be an ambassador for the parks, there'll come a point where I could get more popular and get more requests for TV time than you did. And Scott, from what I've heard, he said that's okay. And at one point you get a little jealous if she's being called first, but he was smart enough not to fire her and to realize that was ultimately an asset for him. So I don't know if that's it, but bottom line, even someone like a Scott Walker realized if your department head shines, that reflects well on you.
Is this just a personnel matter, or is this the end of Chris Abele's honeymoon?
I would say it's the end of Chris Abele's honeymoon if it hasn't already ended, because this undermines his ability to lead. He honestly, he can't trust people that work for him to be successful. I mean, how's he going to hire somebody else to come in if they see that if you're successful as Sue Black was and she was fired, what's going to happen to the next person?
Well, I mean, I think it's important to say that he was within his power, within his prerogative to be able to make those changes. Sure. He had every right to be able to fire her. The problem is that when you fire somebody this successful, you do actually owe the public an explanation. Next on Sunday Insight, our panel picks the winners and losers of the week. But first, here's your morning news update. It's time for our panel to pick the winners and losers of the week. Linda Bruin, you're first.
The firing of Sue Black is a devastating blow to anyone who loves our park system. When I chaired the Parks Committee, we worked together on a daily, even hourly basis for years. Sue modernized park operations with dwindling tax dollars and despite the dysfunctions of county government. She brought in more grants and private dollars than ever before, won national honors, brought the rich and the poor back into the parks, and most importantly met her goal of preserving 14,000 acres of parkland for future generations. Sue Black is my winner. The park system is my loser, for we've lost the best ambassador the county park system ever had.
Christian Schneider.
We've been off the air for a few weeks, so I want to make my winner Officer Brian Murphy, who after being shot 9 times waved fellow police officers away to help the victims of the Sikh temple shooting in Oak Creek. It's just a reminder that there's an army of potential heroes out there willing to sacrifice their lives to keep us safe. My loser this week has to be Vice President Joe Biden, who told a heavily minority crowd in Virginia that Mitt Romney is going to put y'all back in chains. It's almost as if Romney named Paul Ryan and Joe Biden co-VP candidates because they're both giving his campaign the boost it needs.
Michael Holt.
My winner, progressive Democrats who swept the board and won all the Central City elections. Now, of course, I don't know what progressive means anymore, because I mean, it probably means you can't be too black or too pragmatic, but apparently they're the winners. My loser, I agree. Joe Biden using ebonics to address a black audience, he thought it was insightful. Instead, it was insulting.
Brian Sikma.
Well, my winner this week is Vice Presidential candidate and Vice President Joe Biden. Talk about upstaging the top of the ticket. After saying Republicans want to bring back slavery and then touting the 20th century ideas of the Obama administration, Biden's gaffe-a-minute campaign style and unique ability to throw the Obama campaign off message makes him a huge asset for the Romney-Ryan team. My loser this week is liberal Madison Congresswoman Tammy Baldwin. In the U.S. Senate race, she has gotten a free pass so far as the Democratic candidate, but now the Republicans have chosen their nominee, Baldwin is about to get a whole lot more scrutiny. Much of Wisconsin is not ready for her big sister approach to government.
Well, my winner, Wisconsin. I mean, let me count the ways. We have the NFL's MVP, the National League's MVP, Miss America is a cheesehead, and now a vice presidential nominee. Cheesehead domination. Loser, I agree with Linda Brew in Milwaukee's Park. Sue Black was a star who maybe burned too brightly for Chris Abele, and that's a shame because she's one of the reasons that our parks have been so successful. Thanks for joining us. Join me for my radio show Monday morning on News Radio 620 WTMJ from 8:30 until noon. Have a great week.